the most important.
Joining me now is Leon Panetta, who served as Defense Secretary and CIA Director for President Obama. Secretary Panetta, great to see you. As we noted earlier, Russia is reportedly holding live fire drills now near Ukraine a day after the talks. What message is Vladimir Putin trying to send?
Well, it comes right out of Putin's playbook, trying to ratchet up pressure as he is, deploying forces, continuing to deploy forces even as he negotiates, and making some very unrealistic demands in terms of concessions with regards to NATO. I think at this point, the most important thing the United States and our allies in Europe must do is to maintain a position of strength here in opposition to what Putin is requesting, with the hope that through these negotiations over these next few days, that he'll be willing to resolve this on a negotiated basis. But the United States and our allies in Europe must remain strong if we are to be able to come out the other end here.
Do you think we can count on our allies, on Germany and other allies, especially when they're watching what's going on back here in this country?
Well, I think, our allies at this point seem to be very much in sync with the United States, and that's important. I think Secretary Blinken visited Germany and made clear that our allies have to be together. In some ways, it's interesting that what Putin is saying about NATO, what he's doing right now, is producing the very result that Putin doesn't want, which is that the United States and our allies in Europe are more unified. They're getting stronger. They're deploying forces in NATO. And as a matter of fact, there are countries now that are seeking NATO membership, like Sweden and Finland, that just represents the very opposite of what Putin is trying to accomplish.
Now, let me switch gears on you and ask you about North Korea, because Kim Jong-un has launched another missile, this one a ballistic missile, landed in the Sea of Japan, but I'm told by sources, credible sources and experts on this, that the important thing about this missile is that he is really gaining on achieving a hypersonic missile. This was Mach 10, 10 times the speed of sound, but most importantly, the reentry vehicle was a maneuverable vehicle which moved laterally, which makes it harder to evade our missile defenses. As a former defense secretary and CIA director, you know far more about this than I could ever possibly. So give me your take on it.
Well, this is a dangerous step. Kim Jong-un, if he develops a supersonic missile that can avoid our defense systems, that represents a real threat to the United States, to the region, and for that matter, to the world. We're dealing with an awful lot of danger points right now, Andrea, not just in Russia, but in North Korea, in Iran, in China, and with regards to terrorism. There continue to be danger points out there. And I think the only way to confront all of these danger points is for the United States to build strong alliances with our allies, because ultimately that's the best way to confront our adversaries, is through a unified and strong approach that represents a position of strength and not weakness.
Since the president's election, and even before that, North Korea has rejected any efforts at U.S. negotiations and has continued to make advances, important advances, also on the submarine-launched missiles. So how do we control his nuclear program? We've reached the point where we can't declare that we're in favor of a nuclear-free free Korean peninsula. We're going to have to accept him as a nuclear power. He is one.
No, I think the challenge here is to try to develop an approach that reduces his nuclear arsenal and that tries to open up some kind of negotiations that will deal with the economic problems, the serious economic problems that North Korea is facing the serious COVID problems that North Korea is facing, and the other areas that could be part of a negotiated approach. But the problem is that Kim Jong-un, just like Putin and just like Xi, only respond to strength. And so it's very important for the United States to make very clear that we're going to maintain a presence in South Korea. We're going to maintain a strong alliance with the Quad countries in that region. We're going to maintain a strong alliance with South Korea and with Japan. And we are going to have a strong military presence in that part of the world that is prepared to confront them if that's what they want. Those are the messages we have to send if we even have half a chance of trying to be able to ultimately negotiate some kind of resolution.
I want to just briefly ask you about the fact that the FAA has confirmed now that they did a halt on all flights. So there was a ground halt within minutes of this launch. Now, they're not saying that there was a linkage. They're saying that it was just a matter of precaution. We don't believe that their missiles can reach the continental United States at this point. You live out there in California, right on the coast, in fact. But this is extraordinary that the FAA did halt all takeoffs, and actually landed planes. So all flights were taken down for at least 15 minutes.
You know, it's an understandable precaution because the fact is that North Korea continues to work on intercontinental ballistic missiles. They are improving their missile capability. We know they have nuclear weapons. They represent a threat. And once one of those missiles takes off, it's not always clear just exactly what direction that missile is going to take. And it's for that reason that the kind of precautions that the FAA took are understandable. I can't tell you how our military has to be fully prepared to respond to those kind of missile launches, because we too are not particularly aware of whether or not the direction of that missile could very well be directed at the West Coast or directed at some of our other assets in the Pacific. So that for that reason, we have to be able to respond effectively.
I was looking for reassurance, Mr. Secretary. I'm not sure I got it, that we don't exactly know how to track these things. Okay, there we are.
We follow it. We follow them, but I have to tell you that they are developing new capabilities that are challenging some of our abilities to be able to defend against those kinds of missiles. That's a reality, and the United States is going to have to continue to work very hard to be able to respond to that threat.
A very serious comment. Thank you very much, former Defense and CIA Director, Defense Secretary, CIA Director Leon Panetta, as always.